Hi, Misha here, and it's been quite a long while since I've done a NECA Predator video, mostly because there's been nothing to talk about. And really all year I think people have been waiting on this one, the feral predator from Prey. Yeah, we'll talk about it. And I wanted to grab an early NECA. I was actually looking for one of my wolf predators, but he's kind of in the back and I'm tired, so I grabbed the quote-unquote classic predator from the 2010 film. He was close to the surface, so one of the early NECAs, really to see how far they've come as we get into 2023 after they've been doing these for 15 years. And of course he's classed as an ultimate, and I don't have him on a regular stand because every time I put him on the stand, not immediately, but 10 to an hour later, he falls over because he is big. Let's scooch him closer. You can see he's taller, and that actually gives a little bit of a heads up because of the base to the classic one. Yeah, it may be interesting getting this guy on a stand. I may have to order something new. But let's put him on the spinny thing and talk about what the hell the feral predator was. And we can talk a little bit about the Prey movie too. Why not? Heads up, it's better than the 2018 film. I don't know anyone who would argue otherwise. Is it a great film? But it's better than the one before. Alright, let's get into it. Yeah. You know, this is considered an ultimate, and it comes with so many accessories, and it comes with, I believe, a total of either 8 or even, I think it's 8 hands, maybe 10. And what's really impressive about this, usually when you get an ultimate, there's reuse, and there's really not with this one. Not with the accessories, not with the body. It's all new. And even though it's considered a 7-inch scale, since it's in that scale, it's actually about 9 inches tall. The predator in the film was about 7.5 to nearly 8 foot tall, so that makes sense. And he's said to be from a predator subspecies or genetic offshoot that was evolving more in an arid environment like a Sahara, a desert, whereas your previous classic predator over here evolved in more of a jungle and wetlands and swampy environment. We know that the predator homeworld, the Yacha homeworld, is hot, and the only cold weather predators we've seen were the ones from the original AVP. They were said to be a cold weather clan, but otherwise these are hot weather critters, and that's because they have a binary star. So his body is adapted more for desert life, but he's not wearing a still suit. That's why he has darker green blood, kind of like Vulcan blood, thankfully, and more of a scaly, reflective skin. The dreadlocks, which are never supposed to be hair, they're kind of sensory organs, are a different texture and shape. I'll say this, it's a better excuse for a different look than the quote-unquote super predators or upgrade predators, I'll give it that. And we really can tell by his activity in the film, he's a young blood or maybe even unblooded. Because while he has a lot of raw force and curiosity and aggression, he also makes several mistakes. Some of them quite silly, frankly. But then again, I mean, predators are kind of known for that. Being brilliant in some ways and not in others. And because he's fighting 18th century Comanche in the Great Plains around Oklahoma, it would seem to be. He has very primitive weaponry, at least compared to other Yautja we see later. And one reason is obviously just the time, the calendar. Another reason is we could say that his ship maybe left Yautja Prime earlier. When I have time, I like to get all the predators out, but if you look at the alpha predator that NECA did, he too has very primitive weapons and bone. And this to me fits really well in between the alpha predator and the jungle hunter. And then you get to like the city hunter, and he has even more technology. So this guy's missing the plasma caster, the shoulder cannon, and he's missing the nuclear detonator arm gauntlet. He doesn't have the disc. He doesn't have the shuriken. But he does have some really cool gear. And the way they've done this, again, it's all new, and there's some new attachment methods. Some I like, some I get why they did it, but maybe I don't care for as much. So let's get him off the spinny thing. And hopefully I don't break anything while doing this. We'll see how this all goes. Wish me luck. Alrighty, there he is. And he is big. So some neat things that they did. Identifiably, he does have the backpack. And he does have an interesting new weapon that actually plays quite an important role in the movie. His bolt gun. And the way these attach on the back, magnet. Now, I know the backpack should be on the right, but for whatever reason, the way at least my magnets work, it sits stronger and straighter on the left, so there it is. I can put it on the right, there it is, but it kind of wiggle wobbles. Put it on the left, and it just stays really well. It doesn't want to move as much. The magnet for the bolt gun is a little weaker, and it's only on one side, so you kind of have to twist it around. Once you get it, it stays on. But I like this bolt gun. Let's talk about it first. This is a neat new weapon, but it definitely takes from previous Predator weapons. In Predator 2, he has a dart launcher, flechette gun, and the Scarface Predator, one of my favorite NECAs, has a full-fledged spear gun, and a few other Predators do as well. Some are wrist-mounted, some are full cannons. This one looks more like a crossbow. He uses these long bolts, and it has 3 at a time, and it can fire either one or all 3 at once. And if you fire the top one, it has a self-loading mechanism that basically rotates the other one to the top and loads it for you. And you can't hold it, there's a trigger. And this works directly with his Biomask. And the mask comes off very easily from this figure, and is actually patterned inside. And this is a bone mask, which was one of his trophies, but it works with his thermal vision. Predators have different types of eyes, or at least sensory organs, than we do, and they're designed for their planet and don't work as well in Earth's different atmosphere and cooler environments. So they actually have pretty poor eyesight in our environment. Not as bad as mine, but pretty bad. So that's why they need these masks. They also use them for targeting. Now, of course, previous Predators, again, like Classic over here, use it for their plasma caster. Well, this guy uses it for his bolt gun. Kind of the same 3-point aiming system. What's neat about these bolts, through anti-grav technology, they actually adjust in flight. So you lock onto something and it'll have limited maneuvering capability to turn once or twice to try to track the target. And these two work together. In fact, it's not even certain if they will work, if the spear gun will work without or the bolt gun will work without the mask, which is again a key point in the movie twice. Beyond that, another neat thing about this figure is we have removable mandibles. This bottom part of his face comes off, and you can peg in this set here, slightly open, or this set here with his mouth screaming. And you can do him with or without the mask on. Pretty neat flexibility for posers. Essentially giving you 6 different facial options. 3 mouths plus mask on or mask off. Mask on, mask off. That's pretty neat. I'm just going to leave this one on since that's kind of how I will go with it, more in a hunting look. Very long neck on this guy. It's also said that these have more of a bone diet than a flesh diet. We see that the city hunter eats meat, cattle, in that film. But these guys, because they're from more of an arid thing, subsist more on bone marrow, and maybe their prey just have thicker hides. And we're talking about evolution, so that's the excuse for having changed the mandibles a bit. And again, the spear gun, and of course he can hold this in his hand as well. And like I mentioned, he comes with a metric fuck ton of hands. We get multiple grippy hands, we get fist hands, we get wide open hands, we even get a set of pointing hands. And the reason I put these on is they're a good grippy. They're about the medium grippy ones. There's ones that grip a little tighter, ones that are looser. But they also have a pivot in the wrist, plus the regular rotation. Not all the hands have that. So, yeah. Of course, regular NECA articulation, if not even a little bit better. Before we move on, let's check out his Predator loincloth. AKA, let's look at his junk. So he's got this big flap here, and then one on this side, one on this side. Again, it's an all-new loin, but we'll go to the back and there's some things. We've got a trophy, a skull, wolf skull. We also have that net ball thing down here, the one he throws that unfurls into a net. Again, kind of reminiscent of the net gun from Predator 2, but far less advanced. It's like a grenade, but instead of exploding, it turns into a net. And there's also a small cutting instrument over here too. It doesn't come out, it's just on his belt. We see him use it in the film. I think he uses it to get out of a game trap. So the bone mask and the bolt gun and the kind of lack of body armor and the very skin looking belt loincloth might make you think he has very little technology that's more advanced than current day humans. But that's still not true. He's still a predator, and all predators have cloak, and he's no different. Although since he's from a different time, he actually stands on his own well, better than on the stand. But anyway, since he's from a different time, or maybe because he's from a different Yautja tribe or clan, his cloak seems different. Not better, not worse. For one, it seems more resistant to water, but on the other hand, it seems more vulnerable to like flying debris. Sand, dust, dirt, smoke even. It seems to, if not short out, kind of give away more. So in some ways it's a more primitive cloak, in other ways it's more advanced. Probably, different. Likewise, one of his key points of technology is his wrist gauntlet, and he has the typical Yautja extendable wrist blades. They are supposed to be splayed out like this, more hooked and more spread out. That's just kind of the predator prey look. The good news is they do fit in to the NECA really well. The bad news is that the fitment is very, very tight. It's definitely a case of heating it up and just going slow and careful. Sometimes NECA has done their removable blades, looking at the AVP figures, Scar, Celtic. Other times they've done the installed and retractable blades like we see on the classic Predator over there and a few others. I mostly like the built-in retractable ones, but the benefit of these when they can plug in is you can have longer blades. I've often wondered if they use a different type of metal that actually forms as they shoot it out, because it's always longer than what would be able to fit in the gauntlet by default. I'll probably leave these in because, again, getting them in and out is pretty difficult. Then again, since I did get them in, it might stretch the holes out enough. He's pretty tight. On the other gauntlet, which does have more technology, we have this brand new device and thing that is unique to the feral predator. This is a shield, although it has quite a sharp edge and it can be used as a cutting device or blunt force trauma device. It actually makes sense considering he'd be going up against black powder weapons at this time. And it just plugs in. It almost feels like it's a magnet, but I don't think so. But this is the shield collapsed. Just get my little hand in there. Should rotate more. Anyway, so we also have the expanded out shield. Of course we would. He would, I mean, if he had one accessory, it kind of has to be this, that, and the bolt gun. It's just part of what makes him him. And this only plugs in one direction, so you're not going to plug it in the wrong way. Probably by design, the expanded one actually fits a little tighter, which makes sense. It's more likely to get knocked. And yeah, it's just like a metal fan. Maybe he can open it up and fan himself if he gets the vapors. But yeah, it's metal. It's, Predator metal, Yautja metal, which is always stronger, and it's more than enough to go up against the old black powder muskets and whatnot. But because he is a Yautja, it's kind of designed for a fair fight, so it doesn't cover a huge amount of his body. But we do see in the film that if he expands it out and he's in the way, it will cut off his own appendages. Again, we see this predator making some kind of silly mistakes, and that's one of them. But if he's a young blood, a hothead, that's something unique to this guy, is his shield. And they did a good job. And you get opened and closed. If they tried to make one that folded out itself, it would look goofy. It wouldn't have worked well. And it plugs in quite well. My only gripe, I almost wish they had given us a filler piece for this hole, because it is kind of large. You see that with a few other predators. Upgrade comes to mind. If you don't want his cannon in, there's a hole plugger. It would have been nice to get a plug for that, because it's so apparent. But I guess really he would pretty much have one or the other at any given time. That's not the shield, that's the thing. That's the shield. Looks like a helicopter blade. So yeah. Now one reason I put these fists on him, or these hands I should say, for this video, is because the weapon that a Yautja gets as they become a young blood, their kind of individualized iconic weapon is their Combi-stick. And feral predator here is no different. And NECA did a very interesting job. And here's Feral's stick in 2 pieces. This isn't the first time we've seen a 2-piece Combi-stick. Other predators have it. This one is more of a spear slash slashing spike, and this one is essentially a big old thumping club. At least in this roll. So blunt force trauma or slashy pokey trauma weapon. Or of course you can do this. Naturally the 2 pieces plug together and they fit very tightly, and actually the way they're keyed together, they won't twist around themselves. The plug is asymmetric, so if yours isn't wanting to go together, just rotate it and then it'll pop together when it kind of lines up the slots just fine. And when it goes together, it does a really good job of hiding the gap, the seam. Yeah, I really like this Combi-stick, and it's very different. And I like the fact that this has got like a weighted end and then a stabbing end. It could even be used as a spear. It's just really cool looking and different from anything else we've seen, either in film or from NECA. But of course, another feature of Combi-sticks is just how compact they can be made. And here is its collapsed version. Got the end here, of course, and the stabby thing sticking out. And he comes with these 2 hooks, and they're actually made of metal, which is good. And they are detachable, they're separate. In fact, when you buy one of these are in a tiny little plastic bag behind his head in the packaging. I'm sure you'll see it, but just there in case. And that's different. In the past, when we get a Combi-stick, there's usually a C-clip plastic on the back of our figure in a hole. I say usually because sometimes NECA in the past was known to forget to put those in the package. So that was fun. So the idea from this is to hook this onto his belt, kind of like we see in the film. Really, I think you can hook this anywhere you want, and you can really clip this into most any spot on the Combi-stick. It really stays on. The hooks really stay on the Combi-stick well, and it really hooks into the belt well. If you're having any trouble, you could also hook it in to his more waistline, because they're not exactly perfect S-clips. One is a rounded edge, one of them is more straight, so it just kind of goes down and dives in. And again, since it is metal, not plastic or rubber, should hold up just fine. So let's gear this guy up. So here's his back with everything on it. Again, I know I've kind of flipped the bolt gun in the backpack, the Metacomp, a little bit. That just seems to be how they want to stay on mine a little better. Oh well. And the collapsed in shield. The shield collapsed version stays in fine. It's not the greatest, but it's not going to fall off on its own. But the expanded one really stays in good, which makes sense because it's bigger and heavier. And yeah, these claws, I'm not really crazy about them. Working with it in the video, this one's come loose. I can press her back in, but they're just kind of plugged in there. They're okay. The good news is you don't want them so tight that when he falls, they break. You'd rather have them give and fall out. So it's a balancing act. I get it. I do. And for display and whatnot, I need to see if they're compatible with the AVPs. Probably not, but it'd be cool if they were. We could put maybe the shorter ones in. I think they look better with little stubby ones. Kind of wish he came with the retracted versions like some of the AVPs did. But yeah, I mean the magnets hold fine. Checking them here, they're not falling off. I've seen a lot worse, and it's a lot of gear to get on this guy. You know, in the film, he loses stuff. And this gives you a lot of options. And again, he does stand well on his own. If if you can only work on stands as well. And the posability for him is really good, mostly because there's not a lot of obstructions. The long neck also helps. And again, comparing him to our good old classic Predator, he's a big boy. Now, the AVP Predators are really bulky. They're tall, but they're just wide. He's a more slender Predator again. Not as slender as the City Hunter, but not far off. I kind of like that more. But weight-wise, again, he's pretty heavy, which is why getting him on a stand, you need to get that balance just right. Otherwise, over time, they kind of work themselves out. But pretty typical NECA articulation. Certainly a lot better than what they were doing back in 2008, 2010. And I didn't hate them back then, frankly. I just, they were more statues that could be slightly posed than they were fully fledged. But if you go to flexibility, you have exposed joints and pins and seam lines, and nothing comes for free, right? But I think a lot of people, myself included, have been really waiting on the prey predator, the feral predator, the Oucha. And finally he came in. I think he was originally due in September. Man, we get him in mid-October. So he wasn't too far off. I've had him just a little bit now. Finally had a Friday to do a video. The little feetses have regular rotation and articulation too. Again, the film is better than what came before. Not as good as Predator 2. Definitely not as good as Predator 1. I would argue better than AVP Requiem. I think that's a safe bet. Probably better than AVP. As far as Predators 2010, that's a more debatable one. I'd say it's kind of in the realm of Predators 2010. For better or worse, whatever that says about it. Like I said, that one doesn't stick in too well, and I was pressing it. It's fine otherwise. Kind of wish they'd put a little magnet in there. If I need to, I can always put just a teensy bit of blue tack, which I do all the time. I love blue tack. I grew up with it. My mother used it for art projects. Don't move on me. I need to move that over a bit so it doesn't stick out. Yeah, he's got a bunch of stuff hanging off of him, but that's okay. That's his look. He was the feral predator. He does seem to have operated by some kind of honor code, but he was a little more... I'm gonna put the stand. There I did. He was a little more aggressive, young, impulsive, and it showed. That's actually what led to his downfall in the film, was being too eager. And again, our old classic one here. This is the Jungle Hunter, although this is the one from the 2010 film. They were starting to add good articulation at the time, but they still had a ways to go. This is before they did the ultimate body. He does have the alternative blades where they just palm out. The problem with these is they can be fragile and they can break. The cool thing is they go in and out. Some variants more than others. He's just got fisted hands. This is an unmasked version. Hello. Plasmacaster. I mean, he's the classic, the Jungle Hunter, the original one that went against Arnold. And he's, again, kind of our medium technology. He has more than the feral, but we see plenty of other Predators with more tech than the original Jungle. But yeah, even in universe, he was a little bit shorter. So what do you think? If you're into these or just kind of enjoy predators, I think it's neat. I think the design, you can argue you may or may not like it. I've heard some people don't like the look of the face, but I think NECA put a lot of care into this. I think this has been the first really new figure they've released all year. Yeah, they've done repaints and stuff, but this is almost entirely new tooling. Probably the biggest leap forward they've done in a long time. And of course, I'm sure they'll use this body to make other predators. That's, tooling's expensive, especially in 2023. But all in all, I am super impressed with the number of accessories he comes with. It's great. There's only a few things more he maybe could have come with, but I mean, they loaded him down, and all the important stuff's here. The shield, the Medicomp, because we see him using that, the bolt gun, the Biomask, the bone mask. And I do like that his net ball is in his sash there, and if it doesn't come out, at least it's on the figure. And the articulation's good. People tell me the paint's good. I'll believe them. And it's an all-new guy. I just need to find a stand that he'll work in. But I will. Get him up in the collection. We'll have to get all the predators down one day and really go through them sometime. But that's a video for another day. Anyway, but let me know what you think in the comments. Appreciate you hanging out, talking sci-fi nerdy stuff with me. This is Misha. Catch you very soon next time.